So here's one I've been really excited to make. Who or what is Chell? What are the origins of our silent hero that we navigate through Aperture Science? There are a myriad of ideas about who she is, all of which that I know of I will be discussing in this video. I might even have to make this into a two-part video, but that really depends on how long I talk. So, I'm going to start with the most simple and most bullshit theories, and work my way to the most complex and most likely theories. Coming in at most bullshit is the idea that Chell is a robot or android. I'll be honest with you, when I first saw this theory on the internet, I read the title and I scanned the page, and that's just about as far as I got, because the idea that Chell is a robot or android just seems to be impossible to me. It's a bit of bad journalism on my part, considering I don't even remember the arguments for it. If I remember, I think that one of the arguments was that she doesn't speak, but that's not really a good one because Valve has come out and said that Chell can speak, but that she doesn't because of how frustrated she is with the whole situation. But come on. One of the main plot points of Portal 2 was when Wheatley found the cooperative testing initiatives, because, you know, the robots would be the perfect test subject because they never quit and they can't die because they can be reconstructed, and yada yada yada. And you're trying to tell me that, you know, Wheatley or Gladys or anything else could not find out that Chell was a robot if she was? That's just ridiculous. So I hope that from this point on we can at least agree that Chell is a human being. Can we do that? Great. A fan favorite is the idea that Chell may be related to Gordon Freeman from Half-Life. I would certainly be amused if that was the case, but I honestly don't. The two are similar in the sense that they both seem to be pretty damn intelligent. You know, with Gordon Freeman, it's a little more obvious because it states that he has a doctorate in theoretical physics from MIT, but with Chell I feel it's a little more subtle. There are lots of subtle clues to her intelligence throughout the Portal games, but if you read the comic book Lab Rat, you know, I swear to God, I've mentioned it a million times, please go read it if you have not. Anyway, I feel like that comic really alludes to her intelligence several times in like very subtle ways, so I'm not going to go into details right now because it'd just be too hard to explain, but if you read it then you'll probably pick up on it as well. But there is another trait that they both have that just glares you in the face, and that's that they both don't speak. Honestly, I don't think that means anything. I think it's just kind of more of Valve's style than anything else. But, you know, I could be wrong. Interestingly enough, the timelines of the games actually do support this theory. Just basing on Chell and Gordon's ages, I would say that it's possible for Chell to be Gordon's sister or daughter, because Half-Life 2 is set 20 years after Half-Life 1. And the best guesses of the time difference between Portal 1 and 2 is also 20 years. And it is said that Portal 2 takes place during the same time as Half-Life 2, so that would mean that the two franchises literally run parallel to each other in time. But again, as cool as I think that sounds, I don't think that they're going in that direction. The next idea is that Chell is some sort of clone. Now, personally, I do find that to be a little bit more ridiculous than even the Gordon Freeman theory. However, there is a little bit more evidence to back this one up, so I gotta put it in front of that one just, you know, on the principles of probability. Now, Aperture Science has at least twice admitted that it has/does clone people. Once by Gladys in the comic Lab Rat, and once by Wheatley in game. Watch. I'll show you.
Here's an interesting story, you might like this. I almost got a job down here in manufacturing, but guess who the foreman went with? Only an exact duplicate of himself. Nepotism.
So did Aperture Science clone Chell? Well, it's been said that Chell translates to sheep or clone. However, I've looked up the origin of the word, you know, the origin of the name. I've tried to translate it to different languages, but I've not yet confirmed that, so I'm just going to kind of have to disregard that for now. And yet again, one of the reasons that people come to this conclusion is because Chell doesn't speak. But as I said earlier in the video, you know, it is confirmed that she can speak and that she just chooses not to. However, the largest blow to the theory is found in the comic Lab Rat. On the 26th page, you can see Chell's test subject report. You can see that she is in the 99.9th percentile for tenacity. It reads, test subject is abnormally stubborn. She never gives up. Ever. Rejected. Do not test. The only reason that Chell was tested at all was because Doug Ratman modified the test subject order, changing Chell from the 1498th test subject to the first, so that she would be the next to wake up and be tested. He did this because he thought Chell had the right personality and traits to finally take down Gladys. But if Chell was so unwanted for testing, then why would they make multiple of her? The only answer that I can come up with is that they wouldn't. Although at the end of the day I would say that this theory is inconclusive, I am fairly confident in saying that Chell is not a clone. And now the one you've all been waiting for. By far the most likely and most convincing theory is that Chell is the daughter of Cave Johnson and Carolyn. Chell's unofficial full name has been floating around the internet. As far as I know, it has not been confirmed by anyone or anything, but that name is Michelle Johnson. I'll keep referring to her as Chell, but I just thought I'd throw that in there. Based on the photos from the game, the several narratives from the game, and the fact that Cave Johnson wanted Carolyn to be the heir to Aperture Science, I would say that the two were very close and respected each other very much. And personally, I find it completely conceivable that the two could have a love child. However, seeing as they are both very ambitious people, they probably saw raising a child as being in the way of the advancement of science. But, while efficient they may be, they are not heartless. Throughout the entire game, Chell is made fun of by both Gladys and Wheatley for being adopted. During the beginning of the game, when you are being escorted by Wheatley throughout some of the facility, you come across some of the projects from the first annual Take Your Daughter to Work Day. Most people know this one already, but on the bottom right-hand corner of the project with the overgrown potato plant on there, you can see Chell's signature. However, the rest of the text is either unreadable or obscured. Luckily, though, I have found a picture that shows the entire diorama with all the text being readable. On the left it says, "Problem. My dad said somebody at the cafeteria ordered too many potatoes, so everybody has to do a science project on potatoes now for Take Your Daughter to Work Day, and lunch will be French fries. Mr. Johnson said we could use as many potatoes as we'd liked for our projects, but I'm only going to use one. I asked my dad if I could do a different project because I already did a potato battery project in class last year, and he said no, Mr. Johnson would get mad." In the middle it says hypothesis. Probably the potato will do the same thing it did last year for my class project, except maybe not because I had a new potato last time. This one is pretty old. My dad says his hypothesis is whoever ordered all the potatoes will probably get fired. Conclusions. Last time my potato battery produced 1.5 volts. This time I got 1.6, so I guess it doesn't matter how old the potato is. The current from the potato battery did not produce enough volts to power anything important. If I used more potatoes, maybe I could have gotten more volts. But the one Dad brought home smelled and I didn't want it. Now this diorama tells us a couple of things. Number one is that Chell's adoptive father works for Aperture Science, probably as a scientist. And number two, that Chell is oblivious to the fact that Mr. Johnson is her father. Cave Johnson most likely forced one of his employees to adopt Chell after she was born, so that they would not be burdened with raising a child, yet could still be close to her. On a brief tangent here, everybody knows that Take Your Daughter to Work Day was the day that Gladys was activated and started killing everybody with neurotoxin. Now, odds are that in the midst of that, some people got rounded up, possibly had their memories erased, and stuck into a stasis for X amount of time. Chell was probably one of those people, and that would explain how she became a test subject. And just for fun, if you take another look at the diorama, you will notice that the letters N, E, and U have fallen off. And of course, those are the first three letters to the word, neurotoxin. A small hint this next one may be, but one nevertheless. In the ending song, Want You Gone, sung by Gladys, she says the line, "She was a lot like you," regarding Carolyn in comparison to Chell. I guess the combustible lemon doesn't fall far from the tree. And once again referring back to Chell's test subject report shown in the Lab Rat comic, she is very tenacious, just like Cave and Carolyn. Now, if even all of that did not convince you, don't worry, there is an ace in the hole. If you have beaten Portal 2, I'm sure you can remember the turret opera at the end of the game. This song is called Cara Mia, and it is an original composition. In-game, it is sung in Latin. However, when translated to English, the lyrics are, at best, suspicious. Take a listen.
Che lastima,
At the beginning of Portal 2, Gladys speaks to Chell with malice, sarcasm, and hatred. Yet here at the end she speaks to her with great affection, using words like dear, darling, baby, child. My guess is that once Gladys realized her past as Carolyn, she also realized that she was Chell's mother. You can see her tone and attitude towards Chell change when she figures out that she's Carolyn. She could have killed Chell multiple times at the end of the game, but instead spared her, something that she would not have done in Portal 1 or the beginning of the game. But not only did she let her survive, she let her out of Aperture Science. She probably realizes that it is best for both if Chell leaves, as represented in the lyrics for the Turret Opera, when she says, "Why don't you walk far away? Yes, far away from science." Science, of course, being capitalized, referring to Aperture Science. So, after this massive heap of overwhelming evidence, I can say with great confidence that Chell is the daughter of Cave Johnson and Carolyn. So it looks like I still have a couple minutes left on this video, so I'm going to go ahead and throw in kind of a little mini conspiracy. Who is Chell's adoptive father? Again, based on the information that I gathered earlier, we know that Chell's adoptive father works for Aperture Science, probably as a scientist. And considering the characters that have been introduced, there's pretty much only two options. Number one is that it's a scientist that we don't know yet, and number two is that it's Doug Ratman. Throughout the entire Lab Rat comic, Doug does show some special affection and attention towards Chell. This could simply be the hope that Doug has that Chell will destroy Gladys, but it could be something more. It is implied that Doug knew Chell and her personality before she became a test subject, considering he changed the test subject sheet so that she would specifically be number 1. If the theory I spoke of earlier about take your daughter to work day and how Chell became a test subject is correct, and it very well may not be, then I would say that Doug being Chell's adoptive father would not be a very bad guess. To anybody else, Chell would just be another little girl running around the labs on take your daughter to work day. But to the person that she calls father, she would be his intelligent, tenacious little fighter. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Did you ever stop to think that eventually there's a point where your name gets mentioned for the very last time? Well, here it is. I'm going to kill you, Chell.